Good morning, good morning. Welcome to another live feed on Rashad's YouTube channel, man. Let's get into it, man. Chapter 22, the danger of anger. Matthew chapter 5, verse 22. And again, anyone who says to his brother, Raka, is answerable to the Sanhedrin. But anyone who says, you fool, will be in danger of the fire of hell. When Jesus fulfilled the law on our behalf, he not only kept it outwardly, but inwardly, which is the point of Jesus' application of the Ten Commandments. The Pharisees thought that they kept the law because they didn't kill anybody by the sword. But Jesus brings the law down to the heart. He calls anger a sin. Anger cannot be judged by a court of men unless that anger leads to physical murder. But God sees our anger, and the judgment to which we are brought when we are angry is in the presence of not a court of men, but the Holy Spirit. When Jesus first says murder will be subject to judgment, he's referring to the ancient courts of law. The second time he says subject to judgment, he means that our anger makes us subject to the bar of God, the Holy Spirit. Third time, when he refers to calling our brother Raka, he uses the words answerable to the Sanhedrin, a body that parallels the ancient courts. The Greek word synedrio means council. The fourth time, calling a person a fool, it parallels being subject to the bar of God. But he says danger of the fire of hell parallels the second usage, meaning that God will judge us. Where does anger begin? It is rooted in the heart. See to it that no one misses the grace of God and that no bitter root grows up to cause trouble and defile many. It's from Hebrews chapter 12, verse 15. Anger is in the heart because we all inherit the sin of Adam. The early Methodists called it inbred sin. Some also taught that sin can be dealt with a dentist drilling on a cavity, ridding the tooth of all decay. We might wish the carnal nature was eradicated when we are converted or move close to God. Sadly, sin is there to be reckoned with as long as we live. According to 1 John chapter 1, verse 8. Not that every person has a particular problem with anger as such, we might be in another area. To deny this is to set yourself up for a grievous fall and disillusionment. There is no way to refer to this root. Damaged emotions from childhood must not be ignored. So RT10 was talking about certain examples about anger, how it came about and stuff like that. Repressed anger is when one denies that he or she is angry. You push anger down into the subconscious, stuff like that. Bitterness, the wrath of man does not work the righteousness of God, stuff like that. Then he talks about degrees of anger, the righteous anger. This does exist, and your anger do not sin. This is proof enough that one can be angry and not sin. Jesus Christ demonstrated this. What is righteous anger? It is when the Holy Spirit reveals indignation with what you see. Your heart will ache, but you won't be agitated. When you feel agitated, you probably are disqualified to speak. Righteous anger is speaking the truth in love. You'll be calm, being detached from personal feeling. You speak the truth objectively as if you weren't involved. The wisdom that comes from above is gentle, easy to be entreated. You will not be abrasive. More often than that, the other person will accept what you say. Is when your personal ego is not involved. A righteous anger is manifest because the soul honor of God is at stake. A jealous anger. There's nothing at all righteous here when it comes to jealous anger. It talks about that. Calling somebody stupid is insulting another person's intelligence. Calling somebody a blockhead, nitwit, empty-headed, numbskull. When we are jealous of others, we love to make them appear stupid. We don't admit to being jealous. So we go on the attack instead of say things to insult them. Then we got judgmental anger. Anyone who says you fool will be in danger of the fire of hell. This is when you judge another person's heart. That's what it's talking about with that. You know, when you call somebody empty-headed, you're trying to make that person look bad, stuff like that. Judgmental anger is a dangerous domain in which to dwell, according to Jesus. This belongs to God alone. A fool is someone for whom there is no hope. The danger of anger. Let's look into that. Yet when we grieve the Holy Spirit is not the end of the world. We all have done it. Doesn't mean you have lost your salvation. Do not grieve the Holy Spirit of God, with whom you were sealed for the day of redemption. We lose presence of mind for the moment so that we are not likely to think clearly, exercise sound judgment. We risk missing the grace of God, which means that things promised to us, such as our inheritance, could be forfeited. So when we call someone rock or stupid, Jesus suggests a collective can submit or decide our case. So if he really did mean the Sanhedrin, it meant that the ancient council that dealt with murder was conceded by the Sanhedrin, who sat in judgment on people's anger when it got out of control. Internal anger cannot be dealt with. But once you break silence and openly insult a person's intelligence, you invite the Sanhedrin to judge your case. These may have sent a signal to both hearers. The Sanhedrin don't just deal with murder by the sword, but deal with localized vigor as well. If Jesus did not mean the Sanhedrin, but merely a court, a body of responsible people, it could have meant church leaders who had to deal with church quarrels and had to referee the fire of hell. Now, the ultimate danger of anger is the fire of hell. That means that the common Greek word for hell is Gehenna, is used here. Now, however, there's more than one way to look at the danger of the fire of hell. James speaks of how the unguarded comment, the failure to control the tongue, is like a spark that will set a forest on fire. The tongue also is a fire, a world of evil among the parts of the body, corrupts the whole person, sets the whole course of his life on fire, and itself set on fire by hell. It's coming according to James chapter 3, verse 5 and 6. Here's what happens once we give in to judgmental anger, judging the person as a whole, including his or her motives and final destiny. All hell can break loose. We give the devil an authoritarian organization, a warrant to ride on top of our anger. We open the door to Satan. He gets in, and things get out of control. So when we play God, show contempt for another's heart, God walks away and the devil steps in. So it may refer to the fire in 1 Corinthians chapter 3, verse 15. It says, if it, the superstructure of wood, hay, straw is burned up, you will suffer loss, a reward, inheritance. You himself will be saved, go to heaven, but only as one escaping through the flames. The same fire, Gehenna, a supernatural fire that awaits those who are eternally lost, God will employ in that awesome day, the day of the final judgment. Those whose superstructure is built of gold, silver, and precious stones will survive the fire and receive a reward. The rest will suffer loss, but will be saved. The fire of Gehenna will burn up the faulty superstructure. The superstructure of gold, silver, and costly stones is erected through overcoming bitterness, totally forgiving those who have hurt you. Superstructure of wood, hay, and straw is erected by bitterness, anger, and unforgiveness. Such persons' works are burned up. They miss the grace of God and lose their inheritance. It's not the only way the fire of Gehenna is to be grasped in the New Testament, but it's also certainly one of the ways, as Jeremiah says, in the world's largest Greek theological dictionary. Then Jesus is referring to eternal punishment in Matthew chapter 5, verse 22. A person literally going to hell because they call him someone a fool. It shows God's right to judge and punish as he pleases. After all, God will judge people by their works when they are not covered by the blood and righteousness of Jesus. The evil man brings evil things out of evil stored up in him. I'll tell you that men will have to give an account on the day of judgment for every careless word they have spoken. For by your words you will be acquitted, by your words you will be condemned. That's from Matthew chapter 12, verse 35 to 37. 35 to 37 of chapter 12 of Matthew 35, 36 and 37 verses. God may choose to vindicate his judgment on that day by reading back one's own words. Possibly. So if one has been judgmental, they will go to hell. With all we all failed here, Jesus merely said one is in danger of the fire of hell, a word that ought to make us want to be careful then ever when we speak. Stuff like that. So that's what he's talking about with that. All right, so that's it for that. The danger of anger. Then Monday I'll be in chapter 23 about the danger of anger, part 2. From Matthew chapter 5, verse 23 and 24, about therefore, if you are offering your gift at the altar, then remember that your brother has something against you. Leave your gift there in front of the altar. First go and be reconciled to your brother, then come and offer your gift. Let's go to the Ultimate NBA History and What If book, Volume 2. Talk about the Los Angeles Clippers. It's an interesting franchise. They really start as the LA Clippers that used to be Buffalo Braves. That's where they started at. They were Buffalo Braves first. And Bob McAdoo became a superstar. So they began as a franchise in 1970-71. And they played in Buffalo from 1970 to 1978. Then they relocated to San Diego, becoming the Clippers. So the Braves were one of the 3 new expansion franchises for the 1970-71 season, along with the Cleveland Cavaliers and Portland Trailblazers. Braves, Cavaliers, and Blazers were the 3 worst teams in the NBA during that 1970-71 season. The 17 teams in the league, the NBA was split into Eastern and Western Conference for the first time. The Braves finished the season at 22-60, featured 1 NBA All-Star in their inaugural season. That was 6'8" center Bob Hoffman, averaging 20.4 points, 10.7 rebounds, and 4.5 assists. He was joined by 2 promising rookies in the 1971 draft. Elmore Smith was the number 3 pick in the draft, averaging 17.3 points, 15.2 rebounds. So they ended up drafting Bob McAdoo. They had a 21-61 season. In 1972-73, he averaged 18 and 9, was named Rookie of the Year. And everything exploded for McAdoo, become the first superstar for the franchise and the best player in the league under the age of 25. He led the NBA in scoring that season, averaging 30.6 points to game, along with 15.1 rebounds and 3.3 blocks. He finished second in MVP voting at the age of 22 to Kareem Abdul-Jabbar. No NBA players averaged at least 30 points, 15 rebounds per game in a single season in 46 years since McAdoo did it in 1973-74. Also, he shot 57.4%, leading the NBA in that category, with the majority of his scoring coming from long-range jump shots. There had never been a 6'9" player like him in league history at the time. He was truly a vision into the future of the NBA. A preview of the modern power forward we will see later, like Karl Malone, Kevin Garnett, Tim Duncan, Dirk Nowitzki, and Murray Stoudemire. McAdoo joined Wilt Chamberlain and Shaquille O'Neal as the only players in NBA history to lead the league in points and field goal percentage for a season. McAdoo wasn't their only young star. The number 3 pick of the 1973 draft was Ernie DiGregorio. Led the NBA in assists with 8.2 points, 8.2 assists a game. Free throw shooting was 90.2%, and routes to giving the Braves back-to-back Rookie of the Year awards. The Braves enjoyed their first winning season, going 42-40. They lost in the first round to the Boston Celtics, 4-2. It felt as though they had the makers of being a perennial title contender heading into the second half of the 70s, which was not meant to be. Despite losing 3 of the 5 best players for the long stretches in the 1974-75 season, the Gregorio, Gar Hurd, and Jim McMillan, the Braves improved to 49-33, and McAdoo had the best season of his Hall of Fame career, leading the league in scoring again, averaging 34.5 points a game, to go with 14.5 rebounds and won NBA Most Valuable Player at the age of 23. Bill Russell said about McAdoo in 1975, he's the greatest shooter of all time, period. Forget that bit about the greatest shooting big man. Sports Illustrated called McAdoo the quickest, tall man, finest shooter and most outstanding outside scoring machine ever to play basketball. Braves lost the 7 games in the first round in the 1975 NBA playoffs to the Washington Bullets. McAdoo had a legendary duel with big man Elvin Hayes. He averaged 37.4 points a game and led 13.4 rebounds per game, including a 50-point, 21 rebound performance in Game 4, one of the most forgotten great individual performances in NBA history. McAdoo led the NBA in scoring for a third straight season in 1975-76, finished second in MVP voting, and Braves finished 46-36. They would win their first playoff series in 1976 NBA playoffs, beating the 76ers of Philadelphia 2-1. His last season pre Dr. J in the first round. McAdoo had 34 points, 22 rebounds. The Braves won a 124-123 overtime thriller on a roll in Philadelphia to advance. Once again, they lost to the eventual NBA champions in 1976. The Boston Celtics, led by David Cowens, JoJo White, John Havlicek, 4-2 in the Eastern Conference semifinals. McAdoo averaged 27 points, 12 rebounds for the series. While Cowens averaged 24 points, 17 rebounds, and 5 assists per game. The Braves let a potential super trio slip through their fingers and trade a disgruntled McAdoo. 1976-77 is when everything went downhill for the organization. So they ended up drafting in 1976 Adrian Dantley, the Braves, who going to have a Hall of Fame career in his own right, 24.7 points, 5.7 rebounds, and 3 assists, becoming one of the top scorers in the NBA in the 80s, leading the league in scoring in 2 different seasons. Then the Braves would also acquire a young 21-year-old center from the Portland Trailblazers for cash in the 1978 first-round draft pick, Moses Malone. So the 1976-77 Buffalo Braves roster featured 3 future NBA Hall of Famers in McAdoo, Malone, and Dantley, reigning All-NBA performer and NBA All-Star and shooting guard Randy Smith, a former NBA Rookie of the Year at point guard, and Ernie DiGregorio, all of which were under the age of 28. That sounds like a team does for greatness, right? But especially as into the late 70s, probably the weakest period in the history of the NBA. They finished 30-52. The biggest mistake in franchise history, potentially, the Braves decided to trade Malone after 2 games because they couldn't really find playing time for him, and he was unhappy about that. Malone had a right to be frustrated. He averaged 18.8 points a game, 14.6 rebounds per game, finished fresh out of high school for the Utah Stars in the ABA in the 1974-75 season. So Malone was traded to the Rockets for a first-round pick in 1977 and 1978. Malone played a total of 3 minutes for the Braves in 2 games, pulling down 1 rebound for the game. The team gave up on him. He would go on to win 3 MVP awards in the NBA, 2 with the Rockets, led the Rockets to the NBA Finals in 1981, led the 76ers to the NBA title in 1983. The much higher profile disheartening trade that season was the team decided to trade their 25-year-old superstar, former NBA MVP Bob McAdoo, to the Knicks. 20 games in the 1976-77 season. So it had been on the rise with McAdoo, the organization, and the city of Buffalo for some time, though. But the troubles that would dog McAdoo for the rest of the 70s were already brewing, according to alleged profile of McAdoo at NBA.com. Showing sensitive criticism, especially about his perceived lack of defensive skills. McAdoo's withdrawal matter of one him few friends in the media or in Buffalo, complaining of getting insufficient national attention of wintry town where small children play hockey like basketball in the streets. Once there was an incident with the owner of the Braves, between McAdoo and Paul Snyder. He has to be excused from a game for background. Snyder not admitted that he got a second opinion on his back, and McAdoo refused, and resulted in Snyder suspending him for a game. But there was productive but unhappy 2.5 seasons for the Knicks. McAdoo spent the former 20 games of the 1978-79 season with the Boston Celtics. He played the Pistons. Obviously ended up with the Lakers. He's with the Nets. But he helped the Lakers out. He's a valuable 6-man Helped them win the title in 1982-85. He played his final season in the 76ers in 1986. Played in the league for 6 more years until 1991. But back to the Braves. McAdoo gone, Malone being treated like a hot potato. The Braves were led by Randy Smith, who averaged 20.7 points a game, 5.6 rebounds, 5.4 assists per game, and gave Rookie of the Year, Adrian Dantley, averaged 20.3 points and 7.6 rebounds per game. The Braves traded Adrian Dantley to the Pacers for Billy Knight for the 1978 season. The Braves acquired point guard Nate Archibald. In the stroke of luck, Archibald will tear his Achilles for the season and never appear in a game in the organization. That's the stuff I'm gonna skip this by how they became the LA Clippers. Keep moving. So move to San Diego. So that Bill Walton, 78-79 season, Randy Smith did this thing on with newly acquired superstar Roy B. Free. He averaged 28.8 points a game. Second in the NBA in scoring. He was very athletic. He was the prince of the midair, he was called that. Because he had a 44-inch vertical. His ability to do 360 dunks, side arcing moonshot, running gun. He was doing all that kind of stuff. They got Bill Walton as a veteran free agent. Around a bit. So going to the 80s, they had a 36-46 record. Joe Jalen B. Bryant and Henry Bibby played with each other. Trey Cummins played with them. So this franchise, man, was definitely made some bad decisions, man. Like the things that they did, it could have been a bigger franchise with Buffalo from 1976, 1984. This is a team franchise that traded Bob McAdoo, Moses Malone, Adrian Dantley, Tiny Archibald, Roy B. Free, Tom Chambers, Charles Barkley. That's 7 NBA Hall of Famers that the organization that slipped through their fingertips. That's how they became, a cellar dweller. They were just a bad franchise. So I'm not going into details. They were just a bad, franchise. Things changed up in the early 90s, with Ron Harper, Danny Manning, Doc Rivers, Ken Norman, Charles Smith. They made it to the playoffs. But they lost. Yeah, they lost 98-89 in the season. Then there was a trade. Charles Smith, Doc Rivers, and Bo Kimball goes to the Knicks for Mark Jackson. The Knicks got him. The Knicks got Charles Smith, Doc Rivers, and Bo Kimball, and Mark Jackson. He went to the Clippers for Stanley Robinson, 1993 first round draft pick for the Magic. So they made it to the playoffs in 92-93. They lost in Game 5 against Houston, 84-80. They returned to remaining losing ways in the remainder of the 90s. They had Elton Brand, stuff like that, guys like that. Tyson Chandler. Sam Cassell. That's what's the 2000s, the millennium. Had Elton Brand, Cody Maggette, Sam Cassell, and Catino Mobley. That's the guy we're talking about. Yeah, Catino Mobley, 2006, 2005, 2006. They beat the Denver Nuggets. They were 44-38. Then they played the Phoenix Suns. They lost in 7 games to the Suns, 127-107. Elton Brand played well, 30.9 points a game, 10.4 rebounds, 4.3 assists, 3.1 blocks. So the Clippers were losers again to end the 2000s. It wasn't the same. Help was on the way. Because when they became Lob City with the drafting of Blake Griffin, 2009, they started becoming a contender again. In a sense, they became more relevant. Chris Paul, became Lob City. We having DeAndre Jordan and stuff like that. It's a good era once he came. That structure of the season, they're 40-26. So Paul and Griffin were All-Star or NBA kind of players that year. They didn't win the championship, but they were in the playoffs. So they lost to They lost 6 games. And they get out of Doc Rivers. They have Jamal Crawford. Darren Collison, J.J. Redick, David Davis, and Jared Dudley. DeAndre Jordan. They faced the Golden State Warriors. Clippers won in 7 games, 126-121. They played the Oklahoma City Thunder. Next round, they lost that series. 6 games. In 2014, they talk about the Donald Sterling situations and stuff like that. Clippers beat the defending champs 2015 before a major choke job in round 2. Yeah, they beat the Spurs. Yeah, in the first round. It was in game 7. 111-109. Chris Paul made a big time shot. Without that strength hands to Tim Duncan. They lost Houston in game 7. 7 games. Yeah, they ain't do a lot of big things for us getting to the conference finals and the finals. Or what I see here. They keep Kawhi Leonard and Paul George. Skip everything. Again, this franchise never won a championship. They've been to the NBA Finals. They did go to the conference finals in 2021. They lost to Phoenix. They never been to the finals, this franchise. Now let's get into it, man. This is a good one right here. We'll close out this morning. This is going to be about what if the Braves never traded Moses Malone to the Rockets in 1976. The Braves traded 21-year-old Most Malone 2 games to his Braves career in 1976-77 because they couldn't find a role for him. This roster featured Bob McAdoo and Adrian Dantley at the time. So how would the entire history of the Braves franchise be different if Malone stayed with the organization in his prime? Let's look at the alternate universe crystal ball onto this chapter about this franchise. McAdoo was already checked out with the Braves, and now his way out when Malone was traded. He was dealt to the Knicks just over a month later. It wouldn't have changed either way. If Malone had been given 30 plus minutes a game to show what he could do alongside 1976-77 NBA Rookie of the Year Adrian Dantley, maybe the team sees their duo of the future and decides against trading Dantley before the 1977-78 season. A core of Malone, Dantley, Randy Smith, John Shoemate, and Swin Nader would have been better than what they had in 1977-78. Now, Dantley highly productive for the Pacers and Lakers that season, averaged 21.5 points, 7.8 rebounds, 3.2 assists. But Malone made his first NBA All-Star appearance that season, averaging 19.4 points, 15 rebounds for the Rockets. We probably would finish 44 and 38 with these guys good for third in the Eastern Conference. Possibly they were beating the Hawks or lose to the Spurs in the Eastern Conference semifinals as Juris Gordon was too much for the young duo. Malone was an NBA MVP by 1978-79, averaging 24 and 17 for the Rockets. Realized time Archibald, this franchise, when they relocated to San Diego and became the Clippers, could be the point guard they need to pair with their superstar post players like Malone and Dantley and Randy Smith. Even there's still players involved in the same ownership spot between the Clippers and the Celtics in 1978. Let's say Archibald was not included. The scenario, the Clippers will be free from the 76ers, so their core looks like Malone, Dantley. Robert Free probably would have been with the Clippers, so they would have had a core of Malone, Dantley, Smith, Archibald, and Freeman Williams. Probably finished 53 and 29. First in the Western Conference, they beat the Seattle Supersonics in 6 games to make the next 79 NBA Finals. And they beat the Bullets in 5 games to win that franchise first title. And can you imagine that what it would have been like if the Clippers would have won an NBA title their first season in San Diego? The legacy of the franchise of the Celtics, they legally now as of the 1979 season. They also hold on to Randy Smith following the NBA title instead of doing it to Cleveland. They'd like to view as dynasty of the future and head into the 1980s. They probably finished 57-25 1979-80 season, number 2 seed in the Western Conference between Giannis, Lakers, and Magic and Kareem. It'd been a Western Conference match between these two in 1980, possibly. Lakers would have escaped in the 7-game series, though, going on to beat the 76ers in 1981 NBA Finals. It's hard to be fair champions as they felt like Kareem's year. Dantley had the best season of his career in 1980-81. He and Rose could have coexisted together in that era. Dantley was known for being a little selfish and needing his touches, but Malone was such a beast on the boards. He had his own offense. Malone didn't seem to have an ego like it would have kept Dantley in check. Clippers came back with a vengeance in 1980-81, going 61-21, finishing the number 1 seed in the Western Conference. When you consider Archibald was an all-star for the Celtics that year, Dantley was an all-star for the Jazz, averaging 30.7 points a game. Malone led the practice to the NBA Finals in 1981. He probably beat the Lakers in 6 games in the Western Conference Finals, rematched and then beat a very young Celtics team with no Archibald and getting 6 games in the 1981 NBA Finals to win an NBA title. Being the franchise that won an NBA title is true of his first 3 seasons since moving out west. There's no way owner Irv Levin sells the franchise to anyone. John Sterling never owns the team, owns the franchise for 33 years. The same core, likely some tinkering with the rotation, tries to win their 3rd NBA title in 4th season in 1981-82 season. This will be the very best in Malone's career in reality, averaging 31.1 points, 14.7 rebounds, winning the 2nd NBA MVP award. The Clippers possibly hypothetically finished 58-24 at number 1 seed in the Western Conference. And Malone wins his 2nd MVP, as he did in reality. They find themselves matched up in the Western Conference Finals by the 3rd straight season, the Lakers in the 1982 Western Conference Finals. Now, this series is pretty tough to predict because you got rotation of each team, like the Lakers that have Magic, Norman, Nixon, Jamal Wilkes, Kurt Rambis, Kareem, McAdoo, and Cooper Combs mentioned. You got the Clippers, Archibald, Smith, and Dantley, and Malone. It's really hard to say because the conversion of this version of the Clippers in the reality of 1981-82, it was a team that looked completely different. It was the worst team in the NBA, almost possible to fill out beyond those four. Smith actually back on the Clippers that season in reality past his prime, only averaging 9.1 points, 3 rebounds per game. The Lakers win the season 7 and brought to the NBA title in 1982. Most of Malone never gets traded to the Sixers because of a change in ownership in Houston in 1982 offseason, because he's never on the Rockets in the first place. The Rockets really struggled to get support from local fans in the early years, played for their first half decade or so in Houston with their own home. But they never get Moses Malone in 1976. Does the franchise even make it to in Houston, or do they relocate themselves? With Malone just joining an already stacked 76 squad, all-time great 76 squad 1982-83 never materializes. So who wins the NBA title in 1983? Malone won an MVP again that year in reality, and Dantley was in the midst of his prime. Archibald had his last productive year too. The Lakers were even better than the year previous, adding James Worthy to an already deep roster. They beat the Clippers in 6 games in their fourth straight Western Conference Finals matchup in 1983. Magic and Bird meet in the NBA Finals for the first time in 1983 instead of 1984. The Lakers were slightly better than the Celtics that year before they got Dennis Johnson, before Mikel hit his NBA prime. In the 1983-84 season, Malone had taken a mini dip in production, and Archibald was over the hill. Adrian Denton, on the other hand, averaged 30.6 points per game in Utah this season, was second team All NBA. Once again, it's also impossible to certain what the roster would have looked like if you had, besides Archibald, Dantley, Malone, considering such Dantley likely wanted to be as a guy by 1984. The Clippers take a minor step backwards, going 48-34 before losing to the Lakers in 5 games in the 1984 Western Conference semifinals. The team never moves to Los Angeles in 1984 as they are a rousing success in San Diego. They traded Dantley before the next 84-85 season. Malone probably plays a few more highly productive seasons in San Diego for a team that makes early postseason exits before going elsewhere in the late 1980s. So here's the Clippers' alternate universe outcomes possibilities. Number 1, Moses Malone, Adrian Dantley, Tiny Archibald never traded. The teams wins the NBA title in 1979 and 1981. 2, the Seattle Supersonics franchise doesn't have an NBA title. It was named as they never win in 1979. 3, Larry Bird only has 2 NBA titles, as he never wins one in 1981, affecting his legacy. 4, Adrian Dantley is viewed as the top 30 player in NBA history instead of some forgotten about star in the 1980s and the guy who gets paid to push the Pistons over the edge as a team in the late 80s. 5, Urban Levin never sells the team to John Sterling. He said he won't save the Clippers organization, the NBA, from embarrassment and misery for 33 years. 6, the Clippers never leave San Diego to become the Lakers' little brother and roommate in LA. 7, the Clippers and the Lakers have one of the great rivalries in the NBA history in the early 1980s. 8, the legendary 1982-83 76ers team never comes to fruition, and they don't win an NBA title without Malone. And 9, does the Rockets franchise survive in Houston without the success of Moses Malone in his first decade? All right, so that's it. Look at the LA Clippers. And what if the Braves never trade Moses Malone to the Rockets in 1976? This time being this book will be talking about the Los Angeles Lakers. The Ultimate NBA History, What If Book, Volume 2. So that's it for today. Hope you enjoy it. You learn a lot about the chapter 22 about the danger of anger. I'll be in chapter 23 about the danger of anger, part 2. Reading from Matthew chapter 5, verse 23 and 24. So that's it for tonight. Until then, subscribe. Be back on Monday. Talk to you soon.